Hello, my name is Douglas Block. I'm an author and mental health educator. Welcome to your Depression Recovery channel, where each week we talk about practical tools and coping strategies for healing from depression and anxiety. Well, today I want to announce an exciting development on this YouTube channel. It's the serialization of my memoir of depression recovery when going through hell don't stop, a survivor's guide to overcoming anxiety and clinical depression. I first wrote this book in 1998, just after I miraculously recovered from a life-threatening depressive episode. It was then self-published in the year 2000, and 2 years later it was picked up by a national publisher and incorporated into the book Healing from Depression. Now, 22 years later, after I first wrote the book, I'm choosing to bring it out in a new form, the audiobook, which is very popular today. At first, I didn't know if this would work until I heard an audition from an amazing voice actor from Australia that completely knocked my socks off. The actor Jacob Colton brought my words to life in a way I never thought possible. And so I asked him to record the entire book, which includes the introduction, 9 chapters, and an epilogue. So today I'll be uploading the introduction to my audiobook, When Going Through Hell Don't Stop. And I'll be uploading or publishing an episode a week for the next 16 weeks, so you have a lot to look forward to. So now, let's hear the introduction of When Going Through Hell Don't Stop, a survivor's guide to overcoming anxiety and clinical depression, read by Jacob Colton.
When Going Through Hell Don't Stop, a survivor's guide to overcoming anxiety and clinical depression. Written by Douglas Block. Narrated by Jacob Colton. Copyright 2020, Palace Communications. Dedicated to the loving memory of Anne Zimmerman. Although you could not save yourself, your spirit lives on in the lives of those whom you loved and served. There is not one of us in whom a devil does not dwell. At some time, at some point, that devil masters each of us. It is not having been in the dark house, but having left it, that counts. Teddy Roosevelt. Introduction. Anyone who survives a test is obliged to tell their story. Elie Wiesel, author and Nazi concentration camp survivor. This is the story of one man's descent into hell. I have written it for myself and for others, as well as their loved ones and caregivers, who find themselves in a similar predicament. The inferno in which I dwelled was not an external hell. I was not lost at sea, nor was I a prisoner of war. The enemies were not out there. Rather, the prison camp resided in my own mind. I suffered from the hell of a major depression. The roots of this depression extended far back in my family history. 5 of my family members have suffered from chronic depression. 1 developed an eating disorder, and another a gambling addiction. My mother suffered 2 major depressive episodes in a 3-year period before she was saved at the 11th hour by electroconvulsive therapy, ECT. Although one may be genetically and temperamentally predisposed to depression, it normally takes a stressor, such as a personal loss, illness, or financial setback, to activate the illness. A person with a low susceptibility to depression can endure a fair amount of mental or emotional stress and not become ill. A person with a high degree of vulnerability, however, has only a thin cushion of protection. The slightest insult to the system can initiate a depressive episode. 2 such insults had occurred in my life at the ages of 26 and 33, when the loss of love relationships plummeted me into deep depressions. After moving to Portland, buying a house, and getting married, I thought my troubles were behind me. In 1993, however, at the age of 44, my marital separation and subsequent divorce once again initiated a slow crumbling of my psyche. My mental decline was further exacerbated by recurrent bouts of cellulitis, a strep infection of the soft tissue in my lower right leg, for which I was hospitalized and given massive doses of antibiotics. Streptococcal bacteria have since been linked to anxiety attacks and obsessive-compulsive disorders. Shortly afterward, I developed chronic insomnia, a malady that had preceded my previous depressive episodes. I spent the next 3 years, in the words of a friend, barely limping along. Although previous trials of antidepressants had been unsuccessful for me, on the advice of a psychiatrist, I decided to try a new Prozac-related medication, which had recently been approved by the FDA. Instead of calming me down, however, the drug catapulted me into an agitated depression, a state of acute anxiety alternating with dark moods of hopelessness and despair. Although I immediately stopped taking the medication, the damage had been done. I was now clinically depressed. In the pages that follow, I will share my struggle and ultimate recovery from this life-threatening depressive illness. While the current protocol for treating depression focuses on the use of antidepressant medications to balance brain chemistry, these medications did not work for me. What I needed, and what I ultimately received for my deliverance, was a spiritual healing. The purpose of this narrative is to document for myself and others the nature of this miraculous cure. In addition to my personal story, I will be addressing a number of questions that arise for a person who is suffering from depression and anxiety. Some of these will include: how do I know if I am clinically depressed? How can I create a survival life raft that will keep me afloat until help comes? How can I cope with the symptoms of intense agitation? How can I persevere when all hope is lost? What should I do when I begin to catastrophize about the future? How do I bear my pain when it seems unbearable? What can I tell myself if I'm feeling suicidal? What should I do to stay well and avoid relapse when I recover from an episode of depression? In the book's epilogue, I will be presenting an overview of my body, mind, and spirit recovery program for healing from depression and anxiety. This healing information was not taken from psychiatry textbooks, but from my own experience in overcoming depression. If you or someone you know is struggling with a depressive disorder, you or they can apply these tools to move towards your wellness. Although my story focuses on healing from a depressive illness, I believe that many of its principles can be applied to anyone who is undergoing a dark night of the soul. That is, relentless emotional or physical pain that appears to have no end. It is my deepest wish that the lessons learned from my suffering will give you or a loved one the hope and inspiration to fight on through your darkest hours. Douglas Block, Portland, Oregon.
This is Douglas Block. I hope you enjoyed listening to this part of my book. If you did so, please give the video a like. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section, or you can email me, douglasblock@gmail.com. If you'd like to subscribe to this channel, just click on my photo in the closing credits. You'll be taken to my subscribe page, where you can click on the subscribe button, and if you click on the bell up to the right or next to it, you'll be notified every time I make a new video or do a live chat. And until we meet again, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. Thank you.